New York, the first state to require license plates on all motor vehicles. Speaking of New York, I'd like to refute the New York Times article's claims that the government, state, and federal subsidies are a sufficient long-term solution to fixing a long-term homelessness problem. I'll cover a few points, starting with refuting the implied notion that New Yorkers should be paying to have people who can't afford to live in their homes and in their neighborhoods. The next point I want to bring up is the seemingly baseless fact that with this plan, or proposed plan, that they can cut costs by $30,000, which sounds great on paper, but you need to back it up. And then the last point I'm going to refute is they say that the current aid is not enough right now, but surely it is. So, my main point one, and I quote, "It's a plan to create a statewide rental subsidy to help families on public assistance stay in their homes." In essence, the plan in question is taking money from hardworking New Yorkers and putting it in the pockets of those who can't afford to live in this area. The subsidy is really just helping people who need assistance already, not like people who are maybe in danger of assistance. Not everyone can afford to have everything in life, and living in New York to some could be considered a luxury. The cheapest one single bedroom apartment in New York is around $1,300 just for a studio apartment. The author's idea that this is the one true answer is a bit of a pipe dream to me. You cannot simply just pump more money into people's pockets and assume they're going to make the right choices now all of a sudden because you gave them more money. It's a deeper rooted issue. Moving on to my next point, and I quote again from the article, "The tab might seem high up front, about $11,000 a year for a family of three, but it is a bargain compared with the public cost of nearly $41,000 for that family in the shelter system now." Meaning, they're saying that the proposed bill will save $30,000. I did some research here with their cited sources, and the cited sources don't talk about where this $30,000 comes from. It just says we're going to subsidize it. We're going to make sure they can afford to live in wherever they want, essentially, and we're going to make $30,000 of that cost disappear. It's very vague. It's ambiguous. The bill proposed lacks some details, especially when written about in this article. The other costs of living, such as food and clothing and transportation, cell phone, etc., are all factors not talked about. As far as long-term solutions goes, a rental subsidy alone cannot solve this epidemic. Moving to my third point, they say existing aid often isn't enough to help them avoid the shelter trap. After further research into the Home Stability Support Plan, current assistance grants up to $700, not including food assistance. If taxpayers are paying $700 worth of rent for food stamps, and people are still falling victim to shelters, that speaks for the individuals. They need more than just money for rent. They're having other issues. The subsidy needs to offer more than just rental assistance or rent assistance. It needs to address the need for rehabs, counseling, classes, and educate people on how to manage their money once they get it. In conclusion, this New York Times article only supports one idea, and that's subsidies, and saying that these long-term subsidies, basically increasing taxpayers' taxes, will be great for the city. It's very holistic. It's very good. You can support your city. But in the long term, it's not really. It's just perpetuating the problem by not addressing other issues such as, like I said, rehab and educating people on how to manage their money. To provide an alternative and not just argue without reason, the problem really comes from people making bad choices, and you can't just have faith in people these days because everyone wants to take, because everyone's been taken from. And so, yeah, the homelessness problem is something that needs to be addressed almost one-on-one with each homeless person because every case is so different. And this one bill just with just saving people money on rent is just making it harder for everyone else in New York. Not everyone should struggle. Thanks.